Hi, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be talking about buildings in a city. So first, I want you to go to your student book page 44 exercise 2A. Please read the descriptions and decide which building is taller, which building has longer lines. Pause the video while you think about this. Okay, great. So, which building is taller? That is the Empire State Building. It is older, taller, and more famous. Great. Now, which building has longer lines? Well, the the one that has longer lines, it is also the Empire State Building. Great. So, now I want you to please read the sentences I took from the previous extract and answer these questions. What are the sentences doing? How many objects or people are involved? What happened to the adjectives? Please pause the video while you think about this. Okay, great. So if you see, we are comparing. That's what is the sentences are doing. Today we're going to look at different options to compare things. Now, how many objects or people are involved? Well, if you notice, we are comparing two buildings, the Empire State Building or ESB or the Rockefeller Center. Great. What happened to the adjectives? It's going to depend on how we are comparing, right? But let's remember that comparative adjectives, we use ER, like older, for example, or we can use more if it is a longer adjective. Now, but what happens when we want to compare with nouns or when we want to say that something is equal? Let's take a look at that. Okay, so when we're talking about qualities, we're going to be using adjectives. But when we're talking about nouns, quantities, we're going to be using nouns. Great. So, if something has the equal characteristic, whether it is the quality or the quantity of something, we're going to use as adjective or noun as. But if this is not equal, so the previous one is a little less or a little fewer, and then the second object is maybe a little bit more, it has more of something, then we're going to be using not as. Okay, let's take a look at this. So let's start with the adjectives. We're going to start with the subject plus verb as, adjective as, and a noun phrase. For example, Emily's dad is as strong as Superman. Here I say that their strength is equal. Nobody can win in this fight because they are the same. Now, Mr. O'Leary is as fat as Mr. Danaher. They are equally fat. Will isn't as fat as Mr. O'Flynn. And if you notice here, because they are not equally fat, one is fatter than the other, we're using the negative. Is not as fat as. Who is fatter? Mr. O'Flynn. Yes, Will is a little fat, but Mr. O'Flynn is fatter than Will. That's why we're using not as. Great. Flynn's condo is not as tall as Will Danaher's. Or Mr. Danaher's condo is taller than Mr. Flynn's. If you see, Flynn's condo has 3 floors. But what about Will Danaher's? Well, we know that it has at least 6 floors, so it's double, right? Flynn's condo is not as tall as Will Danaher's. Great. Now we're going to compare with nouns. So for this, it's somehow the same as, many, or much. The noun, the object, and then as. Remember that before all of this, we're going to have the subject. In this case, we're going to be using the verb have or has. Usually, we could use another verb sometimes. And at the end, again, a noun phrase. For example, Emily has as many toys as Tyler. They have the same amount of toys. Emily has 10 toys, Tyler has 10 toys. The same quantity. Now, imagine that I say Emily doesn't have as many toys as Tyler. Maybe Emily has 10 toys, but Tyler has 25. So definitely not the same. And just like before, the one that has fewer objects, in this case toys, is going to be the subject, and then the one that has more quantity is going to be the second person or object dimension. Toronto doesn't have as many people as Mexico City. Why? Because Mexico City has more people than Toronto. So here we look at the negative. Not as, in this case, many people as. Of course, remember that if we're talking about things that are uncountable, for example, light or space or traffic, maybe we could use much and not many. So let's go ahead and practice. Please go to your workbook page 30 for exercise number 2. Here, we're going to unscramble the sentences. Sorry, to write them. For example, we had is the Akashi Kaikyo Bridge in Japan older the Tower Bridge in England than. So here we're going to start with the Tower Bridge in England is older than the Akashi Kaiko Bridge in Japan. This would be our usual sentence. Now, please unscramble the other 3. Pause the video, please. Okay, let's go ahead and check. Number 2. The Murray Canal in Canada is shorter than the Erie Canal in the United States. 3. The Sydney Harbour Bridge in Australia is more modern than the Tower Bridge in England. 4. The Lincoln Tunnel between New Jersey and New York City is not as long as the Channel Tunnel between England and France. Okay, great. Now, let's check the other 3. Number 5. The Jingmao Tower in China is not as tall as the Sears Tower in the United States. 6. The New York City subway system has more people in it than the London Underground. 7. The Plaza Mayor in Madrid is not as large as the Zócalo Square in Mexico City. Okay, great. Now, working exercise 3. Here you need to decide how to complete this text. Let's take a look at this. There are many skyscrapers in Hong Kong. 2 very tall skyscrapers are the Bank of China Tower and Central Plaza. Central Plaza is taller than the Bank of China Tower. It also has more floors the Bank of China Tower. That's right, more floors than. We're using than because we are mentioning again the Bank of China Tower later. If we didn't mention the Bank of China, then we wouldn't use that. Now pause the video while you work on the rest. Okay, let's check. The Bank of China Tower is older than Central Plaza, but it looks more modern than Central Plaza. IMP created the Bank of China Tower, and Dennis Lau and Ng Chung Man created Central Plaza. Some people say that IMP has created more famous buildings than Dennis Lau and Ng Chung Man. He has made buildings around the world. For example, he made the John F. Kennedy Library in Boston and the pyramid at the Louvre Museum in Paris. Great! Now, continue working in your workbook, but this time, page 35, exercise 4. Read about the bridges, then write comparisons using the words in parentheses. Use ER endings or more than. So, we are using the usual comparative adjectives. Look at the example. The Brooklyn Bridge is 1,825 meters long. The Golden Gate Bridge is 2,737 meters long. We need to use is long. Here, we're saying the Golden Gate Bridge is longer than the Brooklyn Bridge. Great. Now pause the video and work on the rest. Okay, let's check number 2. The Golden Gate Bridge is wider than the Brooklyn Bridge. Why? Because if you see, the Brooklyn Bridge is 26 meters wide, but the Golden Gate Bridge is 27 meters wide. Very good. Now we're going to check the rest during class, okay? I will see you then. Bye bye.